Hi.
Hello, welcome to the Call to Learn TableTalk discussion. This is number 18 when we are Thom and Tresta Neil. So today we are going to do something a little bit different, and we're going to talk to you about, why we're doing the TableTalk discussions and why the questions that we're asking and stuff like that. So we'll be talking mostly about the key pattern of learning.
Okay, so what is the key pattern of learning and how it can help us as we're learning and you as you're teaching to be able to get the principles and the procedures out of anything you're learning.
Yeah. So as a young mother, I was teaching my children, and excuse me. And as I was teaching them, I thought, okay, what's the purpose of teaching? What's the purpose of even going through this whole curriculum that I had? And what's the purpose of this? And I remember we used to have this big, huge king-size bed, and we would have all of the 4 little children sitting on the top of the bed. And I remember one day just sitting there thinking, there's got to be more to this. There's something not right. All I'm doing is teaching them what I learned in school.
Yeah.
It wasn't school at home because we weren't at desks and we didn't have times and all that stuff, but it was just, I was teaching them what was the workbook. I was teaching them what was in the thing. Yeah. I was teaching them what I had learned at school. And I just like, there's got to be more to this. This isn't life. You know, have you had that question where there's got to be more to life than just going to work, or there's got to be more to life than just this. Well, that's what I thought about schooling. There's got to be more to schooling than just teaching them out of a textbook. There's got to be more. So I got to thinking about it, and I pondered over it for many, many weeks and many months, and I realized that there are different degrees or different levels of learning. And the first level is just the factual level, just the learning facts, learning information.
Which is a base.
Mm-hmm. And it's necessary.
Yeah.
It really is necessary. And then there's the understanding level where you get it into your heart. It's like going from your mind to your heart. And I thought, that's the level I want to teach to. And I thought, if I could understand, or if I could teach them with playing games, and I could teach them with tricks, and I could teach them with going out in the wilderness and looking and doing nature journals and things like that. I thought that could get it to the heart.
Yeah.
But then I realized there was a little bit more. And that is getting it to the soul or the spirit, and taking it to even the whole step where they internalize it, where they go, oh, whoa, and it changes their whole life. I have a funny little story about Tirza. You want to tell them about the birthday story?
Oh yeah, that was kind of funny. I don't know how much I know about it though, but where he was saying, you're talking about the birthday,
yeah.
The word birthday, right? And we're so used to we just say the word birthday and we know that it's a word, and we don't really think about it too much. Maybe if we're learning to spell it,
yeah.
But other than that, and Tirza, who is just 7 years old, it just one day he was just went, I get it, birthday, the day you're birthed. You know, it just clicked.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I want to have with my kids all the time. That's what I want to have in my learning all the time, right? I just really get it. So he went from reading it all the time, hearing it all the time, getting that factual level. The information only. And then he got the understanding that that's the day you have a party. That's the day you get presents. It's the day you were born, things like that. But it wasn't until he saw the word and he understood the word, and he's like,
two pieces to the word,
2 pieces together,
it up.
And then all of a sudden he just started dancing. birthday, I get it. I want that for my children all the time, to have this big aha and this big wonderful, just amazement and appreciation, and to really get it in their whole being, the complete understanding.
What I think about that though is he understood the word. Mm-hmm. He understood what you do, how it's used. He understood what you do on that day. He understood that it had to do with how old you were. Mm-hmm. He understood all those things. He got it.
Yeah.
But there was a certain spark, a certain new enlightenment
Yeah.
when he suddenly realized how that
The
word came about.
Yeah.
What it was all about.
Mm-hmm.
And it made that more meaningful to him.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Even though he technically knew it.
Right. And isn't that true about everything? We can totally understand math facts, or we can totally understand how science works. And we can even understand it. So like, oh yeah, I know how electricity gets from point A to point B with all these total connections. We can understand that. But do we understand how electricity works and how the connections all fit together? And when we get that, then we're at that higher level.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I was. I was like, okay, I know these levels now. I understand the levels, but how do I get there every single day? That was a question, right? I want them to be not just I consider these like the telestial level, the terrestrial level, and the celestial level. How do I get my kids to the learning of the celestial level every day? Every day. And I would try and fail and try and fail and try and fail and fail and fail again. And I remember one day I just told him to go outside. I had to figure something out on my own. And I sat down on the kitchen table and I said, what do I need to learn? How do I get to the celestial level every day? I want to be there. I want my kids to be there. I don't get it. I don't want it to be a struggle anymore. And I drew a circle on my piece of paper. And I said, okay, so what is this? What is it about learning? I know the first thing I want to learn. So I put learning at the top. And then I drew to receive knowledge. And then I have to apply that knowledge and to receive understanding. And then to get understanding, I needed to teach it to someone else, because that's what I'm doing with my kids now. And in order to teach it to someone else, and when I teach it to someone else, I will receive wisdom. Yeah. And I wrote those two words: learn, understand. No, see, learn knowledge, apply understanding, and then teach in wisdom. And I got it. And I was like, oh, well, if I have them follow the same circle that I'm following, or the same cycle or same pattern, then I could do that. So the next day I tried it, and I just did it on a teeny tiny scale, like really tiny. Like I can't remember exactly what we were doing, but I'm sure it was in science, because the kids loved science at the time. But I just applied it to that science trip, and I said, okay, we're just going to learn a little bit about it. We're going to warm your heart. We're going to just teach you something fun about it. And then they got to the application part, and they got to the understanding part. And then I said, okay, now we're going to film it. My kids loved film, right? We have tons of film. Yes, they do. So
where they get that from?
Yeah, not you
or you.
Yeah. So we filmed it. We said, okay, Dad's gone to work. We're going to film you, and you're going to teach Dad. So you're going to teach Dad on the camera. So each one of them got an opportunity to teach what they were learning. And they had so much fun with it. Not only were they having fun with it because it was film and filming with the things, but they got to that celestial level that I wanted them to get at. And that's what I wanted for my kids and for myself, to be at that celestial learning where you understand at a higher level, that application enthusiasm part. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about then the parts of this, because I just wrote down the words that day, but since then I have studied it quite extensively on how each part works and points together. So Tom has a picture for us that he's going to put up. Okay. And this is a picture of the learning cycle.
If I click the right buttons.
All right.
Okay,
so you can see the words on the outside of the circle: the learn, the knowledge, the apply, the understand, the teach, and the wisdom. But what I came to understand is that the center piece, that little starburst in the center, really means God. That God has to be at the center of all learning. Otherwise, you can never get to that celestial learning, or that celestial piece. You can get to the lower levels, the telestial and terrestrial, all the time, but you can't get to that celestial level until you have God and recognize God and give God the glory in all of your learning. So He has to be center, and that's what the sunburst represents, that He's the center. All right, Tom, do you want to talk to him about Revelation?
I don't know what you're asking about that.
How important is revelation in learning?
Gee, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't think you knew.
Well, it's just that without the revelation, we don't find the true principles. I mean, we've been talking about this for a month or so. We've been talking about principles, and without having revelation, we're just on our own, and so we don't know if we gained the facts or not. Mm-hmm. We don't know for sure.
Yeah.
And so when we have revelation, that allows him to pour in that knowledge. Mm-hmm. Because that's really where it's coming from. We're putting in the effort to study, to look things up, to write things out. Mm-hmm. But we're just going through the motions and feeding our brain some facts. But when we have the revelation, it's God giving us that downward triangle. Mm-hmm. He is funneling down the important pieces we need to know for the knowledge piece of it.
Pouring down upon blessings upon us.
Yeah. The knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. So revelation is key. It's also the centerpiece, right? And then we have reflect, review, and record, which is also key to all of these pieces, that you need to reflect when you're learning and review what you've learned, and then also to record what you've learned. And that's the filmmaking part of it too.
It's the filmmaking, it's the journal writing, it's the essays, it's all of those pieces of the record. The reviewing and the reflecting is, you're reading the material, or you're listening to the teacher, and then you have to, so you do that, but until you take the time to reflect upon it, or to review what you've been learning, and to reflect or to ponder on those pieces, then you're not ready to. You haven't. That's when you're ready to actually receive that knowledge, that revelation through the revelation.
Yeah. So some people have looked at this and used this quite a bit, and they put other words in the middle here, that they use. So you can just choose what you want, but the reflect, review, and record is what I found to be most useful for me. So let's look at the outside words again. As you're looking at them, or as I was looking at them and thinking one day, and like, how do I go from learn to knowledge to apply to understand? And I was trying to get that piece together, how to get to understanding from learning. And it occurred to me that it was a give and receive cycle. And I was like, holy cow, look at that. I was like, so if I learn, then I will receive knowledge. And if I apply that knowledge, I'll receive understanding. And if I act in that teaching and teach someone, I will receive more wisdom. And then I get to learn some more. And I was like, whoa, this is just blowing my mind, how this is going to be a receive and a give cycle, or an act and receive cycle. You have to show action, then God gives you more. And you show more action, God gives you more. This is the line upon line model. Exactly. Line upon line model.
Oh, shoot. I just had something to say, and I just blew it. So
okay. All right. So let's just start with the word learn. What are some things that will help your children to learn, or help you to learn? What do you have to have first?
Okay. I'll pretend I'm then and I'll answer it.
Okay.
So you have to have some curiosity.
Yes. Curiosity.
A curiosity or a question in your mind about whatever it is.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you're dragged into the living room or the schoolroom, and you're sat down, and someone starts speaking to you, nothing happens.
Yeah.
Shall we use Tirsan again?
Sure.
You can. You're with Tirsan. It was just the other day, and what was the subject? I forgot what it was. It was what he didn't get it, and he didn't get it. You taught it. And then one of the kids talked about it. Oh. And then it wasn't until he was ready.
Oh, you're talking about the word. Let's see. From Johnny Tremaine, and the word was to...
Oh, it all had to do with his friend who betrayed them. Deserter.
Yeah, a deserter.
So that was what. So the word was desertion.
Yeah.
And desertion. And he and you had been sharing the story about Johnny Tremaine and explained out what it meant when a soldier deserts.
Yeah.
And
then Tennyson walked in.
And then Tennyson walked in.
And Tennyson says, hello, let me tell you, this is how I think of desertion. And he explained it.
Yeah, and then, and he still didn't get it.
No. He looked like he got it.
But he didn't.
Right. So I started reading again. And then he goes, Mom, what does desertion mean?
And you're like,
I'm like,
what?
Whoa.
What happened there?
Yeah. He didn't get it until he had a question.
Yeah. And so that's my point, is you can be dragged into a situation to have to learn, but you're not really learning.
Right.
And really that's what it is. Learning is not a passive thing.
Yeah.
It's an action thing, and that's why it's on the action part of this.
Yes.
So it's right at the top. That peak of that triangle is the piece that the points on that particular triangle are the ones that we do.
Yeah.
So we do it, and it brings us, and then God can give us the knowledge.
That's right. So let's review. We've got learning. We just did a reflection, right, on learning. Now let's do a review on learning. So we know that we have to have curiosity.
Yes.
We know that we have to have a question.
Yes.
Yeah. And you know that you have to pique their interest, or their, at least
or your own interest.
Or their own interest, yeah, or your own interest, or prick their heart, right? This is a place where I love to think of this as a story place, where you're just telling stories, or you're getting excited about something you had learned. Like I remember coming home the first time and teaching my kids about the UM model. And as I was teaching them, they were like, whoa, what? And I'm like, I'm sorry. Well, I started out with this. You guys, we just finished the geology lesson. And I'm sorry. We have to throw that whole notebook away because I lied to you the whole semester. Now, did that not pique their curiosity?
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
They're all like, what? So we got to change. To completely run. So the geology and the rock cycle model no longer applies. We have found
that it was wrong.
That it was wrong. And so now we're teaching the hydrosphere model, and the kids are just eating it up. Haha, Mom lied. Mom didn't know. Mom didn't know all this stuff. This is all new to her
and
too.
She's the expert with rocks.
Exactly. So it's been fun. It piqued their curiosity. It pricked their hearts to want to learn more, to desire to have more in their lives. And then they were able to receive the knowledge, and I was able to teach them what I've now learned.
So that's the first few steps on the triangle.
Yeah. So that's a review of that. So now you can record that, in different ways. So that's
You're recording it right now.
Yeah, that's right. We're recording it on camera. All right. So that's the learning part. Now the knowledge part. How do you know that your children are receiving knowledge?
I think it's those ahas is one way. I mean, when a child comes and says, I get it. Birthday. Wow. Ooh, cool.
Yes.
That's one.
Yeah.
That's one way you know.
Yeah. So you see them, they get excited, they're happy, they're engaged. Another way to do it was when they start asking more questions, because it will lead to more questions.
Sure. Another is when they are ready to start applying.
Yeah.
When they find a way, and that's how you can kind of test it. If you're sitting there teaching them and you think they've got it, then you can start asking questions that would lead to how would you actually use this? What good is it type of questions.
Yeah.
Where would you, I don't know, you're good with that.
Well, there are different types of questions to ask for each one of these 6 levels.
Yeah.
And you would just go to that. I have a book for the key pattern of learning, and you can look it in there. But let's talk about apply. How do you act in application? Do you know?
Well, it took a while to understand how you do that, I think. But it has to do with is searching a way to do it, and a way to use it in your life. And the way you do that, one of the methods to do that is by recognizing the symbols in it. it symbolizes something else. And when you start to see that one thing symbolizes is giving you an understanding or a symbolism to something else, or leading you through symbolism to something else, that helps you move it from you receive this knowledge to now, I can do something, so now I get it's starting to move it this direction towards the heart.
Right. Yeah, you want it to, somebody said, fall into the heart from the mind. But it's more like enter the heart.
But it isn't as easy as falling.
No, it's not. It
takes some effort. That's why it's called apply.
And it's part of the action triangle too.
Right.
Because it's an action thing. So I think of apply as the practice. It's when you're playing the piano, you have to practice and practice and practice, or when you're trying to learn something new, you have to practice and practice. So when the kids are learning something, so we've been learning about Johnny Tremaine and about the American Revolution.
Right.
And while learning about that, we get out the little army men and we act out the battles. And sometimes I always thought at the beginning, that's all it takes to do that. That's practiced. Well, no, it's not. They have to teach it back to me before I understand that they've got it and that they really get it, right?
But see,
so it's that practicality. It's learning. If you're thinking about math, then the application would be then how do you apply math in your whole life? How do you how is it used practically?
So basically, what you're saying is, it's the word. What do they call those? The word questions in mathematics.
Word problems?
Word problems.
Yes.
I mean, that's
absolutely.
what word problems, that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
It always seems like they do it in an awkward way, but, and maybe it's because it's just a textbook writer's thoughts and not the student's thoughts.
Yeah.
Because really, what makes the application work is when I'm doing it for something for me that makes sense to me, rather than something I'm just reading out of a book.
Yeah, and that's important. So when you're finding these practical applications, is that you find something that applies to them that you're teaching.
Yeah.
And when they start saying the words, "Oh, well, I remember doing that with," and they change it they're using this principle in something else. That's when you know they've understood it.
Do you know what? Something I've observed. From more of an observer's point of view than I don't do as much of the teaching with the kids, is that over time, as you have been helping them to move it to how it would apply in their life, that more and more they jump up. They don't jump up, but I mean they have their ahas and interject. Oh, that's like, and they come up with their own.
Yeah.
The more you've been doing that, I've noticed over time, the more the kids jump right into that without you even having to ask the question.
Yeah, I don't have to anymore. Yeah.
I mean, you do.
It's almost like a natural path now. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it is something that it becomes a practice, a habit of something that you do, and that's cool because that means that's something that we can do when we're learning. It may be a kind of okay, got to do this, then this, then this, then this, but step by step at first. But it becomes a habit,
right? Oh yeah,
where you just naturally.
This is how I learn.
Well, and
that's what we're the whole teaching, right?
And I think that's what's so cool about it is that if you practice doing that, soon as you keep practice thinking about the symbolism and thinking about how it does apply to you and how you can do that, it just becomes part of how you learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it's more like sliding or falling into the heart because it becomes more of a natural thing for you.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so let's review apply. Apply has to do with learning to apply it to something else other than what you've just learned.
Yeah, you learned it in one context. So it's basically taking it from one context and moving it to another context.
And understanding it that it could be used everywhere.
Right.
Or in different areas.
But yeah, it's like...
Or like Etienne will go, "Oh, I remember I saw that in a movie, and he'll explain the principle or the understanding of that from a show that he had watched. So even that can be done with the understanding. So that's how you get from apply. You're applying it to other situations. You're practicing. It's practicality here.
And what's cool is
Symbolism is
when you
another
do
one.
that, it does not. You're not forcing it into your heart.
Correct.
What happens is you get to understanding of what part of that's on that other triangle again.
Yeah.
So that's on the receiving triangle from
Yeah.
God. And so you receive that understanding as you start to do it. And some of times that happens, just like you said, by your action of working something out on paper.
Yeah.
Or when you're in a group and you're moving it and saying, okay, it applies here and this is how it would apply here. But sometimes a lot of times it takes actually going out and doing something with it.
Yeah.
Physically doing something with it, which of course is why the church always uses it, with the young men's program where it's, share, learn, act, share. Because those are the pieces we have to do.
Yeah.
To really get it into our hearts and in our.
Okay, so now you
lives.
understand, apply, and understanding is that receiving, that God's going to give
You'll
you
receive it,
understanding. And then you go out and teach it. And you can have your children teach each other, have them teach grandma and grandpa, have them teach dad, have them teach
a camera.
Yeah, exactly.
Have them. It's a. What I find when I finally understood that was I thought, well, not everyone teaches what they do. I mean, they don't. And how does that lead to wisdom at first? Until there's 2 points that I thought of about 2 points that I understood about that helped. Number one, we see it in practice all the time whenever teaching in church or whatnot. We always say the teacher learns the most, right? And why is that? It's because they're going over here and doing the reflect, review, and record constantly as you're preparing to teach. But what are you reflecting at that point? What are you really reflecting on? What are you reviewing? It's your experience. And so that's the second piece. The experience of the application.
Yeah.
And now you're putting it down on paper, or you're putting it down in a video or an audio, or you're putting it forth to the people that you're teaching. And that's what gives you that conduit from just understanding it and physically doing it to the receive cycle again of receiving wisdom, because you go, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
And you see the principle behind it. Because sometimes you can go through that whole cycle without ever understanding the principle.
Right.
Sometimes it takes all the way. Well, in a way, we'll have to talk about that more. How that this give and receive cycle, or act and receive cycle, is a spiral, and it has layers.
Yeah.
It's like this
Yeah.
3-dimensional or 4-dimensional.
Well, and that's why I loved it so much, is because it was so simple, so simple to say, okay, where are we at in our learning today? We're not at the celestial level. Okay, well then let's go around the spiral until we get there. And until they went, oh, wow, that's it. Then I'm like, okay, now we're done learning, is because we got to that wisdom part. And after they share, or after they teach, another place to teach is at the dinner table. I always ask, what have you learned new today? And everybody gets to share something they learned new today. And that's where more learning happens, or more curiosity happens.
Well,
and it starts again, right?
Well, also, if you're sharing what you learned, you're at that share. You understood it. Now you're sharing it. Now you're getting, and you have those ahas that give you that wisdom.
Yeah. Another way that we do teach one another is with my little boys, is I have them copy down words that I write for them. And I always tell them, or ask them, what have you learned today? And it keeps a record of what they've learned and done today, so that they can write that down. So that's another teach level. And then you receive wisdom, and you gain more curiosity, and you want to learn again, and it just spirals around. So that concludes the whole key pattern of learning, where you want to get to the celestial level every day, and you can do that by following this pattern.
Yeah. It's really, it amazes me every time when you talk about it.
Yeah.
Because, and it's funny because when we talk about it, it just more and more of those ahas happen with it. when we don't talk about it for a little bit, you know, you go, oh yeah, that's how you do it. You know, it's just kind of there. But then when you start talking about it again, it's just like, wow.
Yeah, I love it. And it is putting God at the center, right? Because you act in learning, then God gives you knowledge. You act in your practicality and application. He gives you understanding. And without that continual back and forth cycle, the give and act cycle, then, or action and receiving cycle, then you're not, there's no learning really taking place. There's just learning facts and stuff like that.
It's just the basics.
Yeah, it's just the basics. And you want to get to that celestial level every day. I wish we could do it more often in every subject and every thing we talk about. But, you know, if we get it there once a day, then that's good.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
To subscribe to our YouTube channel, click here. To choose from our gifts and request updates on our most popular topics, visit calledtolearn.com. For more videos like this one, click this playlist. For homeschool stories, click this playlist here.